So does it say live your end yet? Because I've already had this weapon where it says live on mine and hasn't got live on theirs as well.
Yeah, no, it says live up here. We're all good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go into the next subject then, which is the controllers from any system ever, including Virtual Boy Film. So what is some of your highlights in terms of controllers? Have you got a favourite? Have you got a one that you really can't stand, or anything that's just been so weird that you want nothing to do with it?
We'll go with the good ones first, shall we? So I think you've got to go a long way to beat the GameCube controller for me. I love it. And the Wavebird specifically as well. Yeah. And the Wavebird as well. That's a fantastic controller. And it lived up to its name on many occasions, playing Mario Kart Double Dash as well. It was freaking blue shells. Yeah, no, I think it looks weird with like the different size buttons, the different shaped buttons and stuff, but it just works so well. Like having that big A button right there, just like your action suit, and then there's just something that feels really good. The way the shoulder buttons sort of curve around your finger as well. It was just a really, really comfortable controller, and like most Nintendo controllers as well, it was like really well built. You could throw it around a little bit, and it would still work. So yeah, the GameCube one's probably one of, or if not my favorite one. Although I have to say I love the Switch Pro controller as well. That's probably my favorite one after the Cube. It's an expensive pad, but I'm so glad I bought it, especially because I play mostly docked. I think if you play Switch handheld more than anything else, you could probably live without the Pro controller. But if you play a lot of docked, I think the Pro's a must buy. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm the same as you. My favourite one was probably the GameCube controller, and like you said, the Wavebird was the one I played with the most once that was released. Obviously, the absence of the Rumble was a bit strange. Were you fazed by that, or were you perfectly happy with it, the Rumble?
So, until you mentioned it now, it never really occurred to me that it never had Rumble, but of course it didn't, did it?
No. Yeah, that's a thing. I didn't notice it either, really. You know, it's something you forget about after a while. Yeah,
no, of course I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, no, it's clearly not something I noticed. I must have noticed it to start with at the time, but I just played with it that much that it never became a thing. That's what we'll say actually about the Switch Pro as well. It's the HD Rumbles. It's not as quite as pronounced as it is if you're just playing with the loose Joy-Con, but still works really well in that, I think. Especially playing like Mario Kart.
So the HD, we haven't really seen a lot of games really utilize it. I mean, the one that's most predominant for me at the minute is Tumble Seed, because the further so you're balancing a little seed on like a platform, and the further it goes to the one side, the more one side of the controller rumbles a bit more. Which is cool, and I'm the same as you in terms of liking it for the features that it has. You know, that having the NFC reader in it's pretty cool, which would have been handy on the Wii U, but obviously you have to keep switching between controllers all the time, which was a nightmare that I'm not going to get into now. we'll save that for when we talk about the Wii U. But the gyro in the Switch Pro is amazing. Like fine aiming with those arrows in Zelda is just. It's so cool.
It's so natural. It's brilliant. And gyro's the only way to play Splatoon as well. All these people that play with just sticks. It's like, no. It's got motion's the way to do it. I'm glad they kept that in.
Sorry, carry on.
I'm glad they kept the gyro in for aiming with those. From playing like Wind Waker HD and then Twilight Princess HD, it's just sort of... It's just a natural way of refining your shots with the bow and arrow. So I'm glad that they kept that in with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I went to play Minecraft straight after Breath of the Wild, and as soon as I got the arrows out, I was there like waving the controller around, and nothing happened. And that's when you realise, damn, this gyro controller is actually awesome. Which obviously some games don't do it as well as others. But
it's funny the sort of opposite to that. I remember when I first got my Wii. And I'd got it on I'd pre-ordered the Wii, and I was pre-order number 33, and GameStation got 30 in on launch day, so I had to wait an extra week. I was devastated. And they rang me. I was in uni in the morning. They rang me and said, "Oh, you're wheezing." It's like, "Oh, great." So I went and picked it up, and I had like 3 hours in between lectures to kill. But I live far enough away from uni that if I'd gone home, I'd have had 10 minutes and had to come back again. So I went to my nan's because she lived closer, and she's like, "Nan, I'm commandeering your living room." Plugged the way in, and went to play Wii tennis, and the ball came to me, and I pressed a button to swing the racket, and nothing happened. I was like, "Oh yeah, you have to swing the controller now." So
it was definitely like revolutionary. Thing, but I had the same effect as you had as well. Just having nothing but standard controllers up until that point, it was so strange to get into, but it's something that's so natural now, like you say. Yeah. I mean, it's become a standard almost.
Yeah, definitely, and when they're executed right, they work really well, I think, and I think the motion controls tend to work better as a supplement to traditional controls, like the gyro in Zelda. Skyward Sword gets a lot of stick, and the motion controls were a bit of a pain in that at times. But the puzzles and stuff they built around them, I thought was really cool, and it did lead to some cool game mechanics. So I think, obviously, with the advanced gyro and stuff that they've got in the Joy-Con, if a Skyward Sword HD ever does happen, I think they could work it rather well.
Yeah, I mean, Skyward Sword. I heard the complaints. Me personally, I didn't really have any really issues with it. I actually thought it was fantastic just playing another Zelda game in a different style rather than just doing the same old like press B rapidly to kill the baddie. But again, it's like you say, it's how they use it. It did get tedious at times, having to wait for the enemies to move a certain way. It almost became like a waiting game rather than strategic almost.
Yeah, and the stuff that some of that shovelware and stuff that you got on the Wii, it was just all waggle. That was a bit of a pain, but I think it got a lot better with the Motion Plus accessory. That certainly helped things. I've been playing Virtua Tennis. That used the Motion Plus quite well, I thought, on the Wii. I do think it was. I remember when the Wii controller was first unveiled. My mind was like blown, and you're showing like like lightsaber battles and things like this. Which apparently there was a Star Wars game that was like in development and was like 3/4 of the way through. It was like nearing completion that had like full on lightsaber motion control battles and things. And for whatever reason, he got canned. I can't remember the specifics now, but that would have been cool.
Yeah. Motion controls, like I hope they're staying in terms of the gyro and stuff, but I don't use the motion controls on ARMS. I think the two-handed thing, the two-handed separate motion control, I think that's kind of had its day, and which worries me a little bit about Super Mario Odyssey, seeing people playing it with detached Joy-Cons, waggling it like it was Mario Sunshine.
Yeah,
kind of worries me a little bit.
Yeah, and Nintendo have said that Odyssey, the way to get the most out of it is to play with the Joy-Con and using the motion, which does worry me a little bit, purely because of, like I say, I play mostly docked and I love the Pro Controller. Obviously, it can be played without the motion, so the option's there. But didn't knock it till he tried it. But it was funny you mentioned ARMS. When I was at the Switch premiere event in London, that was the first time I tried out ARMS, and it was the motion controls that put me off the game. I was like, I'm not interested. I don't want to be playing the Wii boxing on acid. But again, looking into the last time I was on the show when we were talking about demos. Playing the Test Punch with the Pro Controller sold me more on the game. I was like, yeah, okay, this feels good now. So I think it's definitely the GameCube controller was the best Nintendo one, I think. If you want to talk about controllers I dislike, and this is a Nintendo podcast, so we can start a console war. I can't for the life of me understand why Sony has barely changed the PlayStation controller. I loathe the thing.
Yeah, you know what? I'm in the same. I actually think Xbox 360 Elite's controller is the finest controller that there is.
Yes,
Which I really shouldn't praise it so much, but I mean, it's got everything on it. Let's face it, it comes in a nice case. It's got changeable buttons. I believe that one's got a headphone jack on as well, which is something that really, come on, Nintendo, man. You've even got a USB port on the back. At least make an attachment for a headset. Come on.
Yeah, I know. But mind you, if you hear some of the things I shout playing Mario Kart, you can maybe understand why they don't have voice chat.
Yeah, so but moving on the PlayStation 1, it's really strange. And this brings me to the Wii U Classic controller, if you ever had that one for the Virtual Console, because they chose to stick the analog sticks in the middle, like the PlayStation. And I found that incredibly strange. But I did used to play mainly with a D-pad, so I could forgive that one. But did you like that at all, or was that a strange decision for you?
Yeah, like you say, it's because you're using it mostly for Virtual Console. Most of those games use a D-pad, so it wasn't too much of a problem. But yeah, having those sticks in the middle, because it's not a natural position having the sticks there. You have to sort of bend your thumbs back a bit in order to reach them, and it's not comfortable. It's not like your sticks and your buttons should be where your thumbs just rest naturally when you pick up the controller. Your thumb should be there, like ready to go, I think. So if you have to sort of bend yourself backwards to get to what you're using most of the time, it baffles me.
Yeah, well, I actually use that controller now on the NES Classic because I prefer it to the NES controllers, which is a strange thing to say, I know, and a lot of people probably scream at me for that one, but I don't think they're very comfortable, which they're not going to be, they're an old design. That probably wasn't built for comfort in mind. So how did you feel about the NES Classic or the NES controller as it was?
Yeah, I was one of the bajillion people who couldn't get their hands on an NES Classic, but I have still got my NES. And yeah, I remember as a kid, the long play sessions on the NES used to kill your hands because it's a square, or rectangle, it wasn't ergonomic at all. So I can understand why you'd rather use the classic controller because at least that's rounded. Yeah, I think it just they didn't need there wasn't a lot of tech in them. It was 2 buttons and a D-pad. You didn't really need much more than that, and it works fine. And again, it was rock solid. But yeah, not the most comfortable of pads. The SNES controller, on the other hand, is a really good pad. Yeah,
I actually had the which I can also use on the NES Classic. I've got a Wii version of the Super NES controller. It came from Club Nintendo. I believe I've seen you. Is it you I've seen with it? I've seen it on somebody's desk while I've been shooting a video. But I had that.
That was just an actual SNES controller.
Oh right, okay. So I had that in the Wii era from Club Nintendo. It's branded as a normal Super NES controller, except it had the attachment which goes in the Wii remote. The controller, the Super NES is the mother, so to speak, of all controllers, in my opinion. It's where every other controller took its basis and its form from. Just a brilliant controller, really. I mean, it's aged quite well. There's some weird plasticky and rubbery bits about it, but you can't say anything bad really about it because it's the classic. It's the beginning, in my opinion.
They nailed it. They really did.
Yeah, and then we had the N64 controller, which strangest thing ever to come out of anything.
Yeah, and I'm one of these weird people. You see these memes go around, and they're like, why are they holding the controller that way? And they're kind of like pinching it with their hand resting on the left side of the pad. That's how I play it.
Oh no!
Yeah, I got it. I think how old was I? It was like my 8th birthday or something. 10th birthday it would have been. I think when the N64 came out. So it was that Christmas. So I was 10 years old, and like obviously because it's such an unintuitive looking pad. It's like, how do I hold this? And I was 10, and my mother had bought me Turok because she clearly didn't look at the age rating. Which obviously used the analog stick. So I just sort of and I just played. But I found that really comfortable, and you could still reach all the buttons. You had like A and B and your C buttons under your thumb. You had your index finger using the right shoulder button, and then your middle finger on your right hand using the Z trigger underneath. I thought that was fine.
So
maybe I just had long fingers. I don't know, but
well, I've got incredibly small little girly hands. Like honestly, my full-time job should be modeling rings for one of those catalog magazines. But I did the same thing as you. My middle finger on my right hand was the Z button.
Yeah,
which is totally not the way that people were meant to play. But I used to play a lot of Perfect Dark, and I was quicker to the trigger with the middle on the right hand than the actual trigger finger on the left hand.
Even though you used it in the way you were supposed to use it, with the like holding the middle prong. That's really weird.
Yeah, so my left hand around the bottom section of it with my thumb on the analog stick. The right hand side, with the thumb on the buttons there, but the middle finger was still on the Z trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, you're even weirder than me.
Yeah, and that started from Perfect Dark. That's where I picked that up, which was I think was towards the end of the N64's life. But then everything I went back and played, that became the Z finger.
Yeah.
I think that's the name for the show right there, by the way.
I was going to say, I was about to say Z finger. To do an N64 retro show, that could be the title.
so the N64 controller was weird in its own right. So you didn't get to use the D-pad very often on it, or not on any of the games I had anyway.
The only one I can think of that used it was Mischief Makers, and that was because it was a 2D side scroller. Used the D-pad on that.
There was a game actually on Pokemon Stadium. There was a mini game where you had to throw little Ekans over the Diglets.
Yeah.
And you had to hold it completely coggy. You had your left hand over the D-pad and your right hand over the analog stick, which was the worst. Who decided on that controller scheme? No, that doesn't happen. But then really the only console other than the handhelds, which in all fairness, the handhelds you can, they're not made for comfort, so we won't talk about them. Mm-hmm. But the only other console we really missed there was the Wii U, which is actually something that was one of my first impressions. I opened the box when I got it and got the controller out, held it, and just thought, "Oh my god, this is what I'm going to be spending the next 5 years with. Are you serious?"
Yeah,
it was the most uncomfortable thing on the planet.
See, do you know what? I really like the gamepad. I play with it, and I'd always planned on getting a Wii U Pro controller, and I just never got round to it. The battery life is horrendous on it. I think, even they say it lasts 5 hours. Mine's never lasted that. It's like an hour tops. Mine lasted before I had to charge it again. But I really like it. I think it feels quite sort of plasticky, and it's in that Nintendo vein of like the crazy toy maker. One of the things I really like about the Switch is it feels like a gadget. But no, I have to disagree with that one. I like the gamepad. As clunky and as weird and as underutilized as it was, I've got a soft spot in my heart for that. But I've got a soft spot in my heart for the Wii U in general. I thought it was a really good console, if underappreciated in its time.
Yeah, so
I think it's the Dreamcast of the last generation.
Oh, definitely. So after I got over the initial "what the hell, this feels awkward," I'm the same as you. I grew to love it. I think it was genius for the time. Having that touchscreen, some of the functionalities on some of the games, it blew everything out of the water. It was the first time I got to use gyro with a normal styled controller, like in Wind Waker HD for the arrows in that. And the built-in microphone. I played Monster Hunter, which you could voice chat with that and then have the sound come through the telly of everybody else's voices. That was cool. I like the way it had its own speakers in and
yeah, that was cool.
Its own camera. Some games utilised the camera on it. Not very many, but a game that we've already talked about, which is Nintendo Land, that used the camera on for some weird, everybody else could see your facial reactions on the TV. That was really strange, but a nice little touch in there as well. And I generally like the gamepad, other than the fact that, like I say, because I got tiny hands, it was uncomfortable as hell to me. I actually got really shown in a way how to use it because of Monster Hunter. It altered my grip and the way I was holding it, because I was holding it too far down originally, which is kind of strange. But I did own the Wii U Pro controller, and I've got to add that that's possibly my favourite controller. that Nintendo
Yeah.
released. Yeah, I like having the two sticks on the same level, which I know a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, I like that as well.
If there were ever first-person shooters on that console other than Call of Duty, it would have been the perfect setup. And I played Call of Duty on it, and holding it, I was like, man, why isn't the Xbox designed like this? Because they have a lot of first-person shooters. It makes so much more sense. Or at least another controller, which is the same design, but with those buttons flipped around. It's perfect.
I always wondered who the other person who was playing COD with me on the Wii U was. It must have been you.
Yeah, I was the one that was dying on it, mainly because I'm terrible at the game. That's another story for another day. So, we've actually kind of gone through every console here. So is there anything else you want to add? Yeah, is there anything you want to add? Or
I'm just sort of looking to the future. I'm excited to see what sort of different iterations Nintendo come with for the Switch. Whether or not they release a left Joy-Con that has a proper D-pad on, that'd be cool. That's one of the reasons why I bought a Pro Controller, so that I've got a proper D-pad for things like Street Fighter and things like that. Although the D-pad on the Pro Controller is serviceable, but I don't think it's brilliant. It has its drawbacks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I have a few problems where I accidentally press up on games on it for some strange reason.
Yeah, I'm the same, and not even on things like Street Fighter, but even on things like Zelda, trying to access the runes. Sometimes I bring up my arrows, or vice versa, which can be a little bit frustrating if you're in the middle of fighting a Lionel. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what sort of crazy concoctions Nintendo come up with in terms of Joy-Cons going further down the road. So yeah,
and I mean, to be fair, I would like to see. Like I say, a headphone port or at least some attachment or something for it. And even if it comes on the Joy-Con, so be it. That's what I'll buy. I'll buy the attachment with the headphone jack on for online play because I don't think it needs to happen. But just to quickly touch, I own the Pro Controller on the Wii U as well. I wasn't going to buy it. I went to the a Switch demo thing like you did, but I went to the Birmingham one, and I actually really find the Joy-Cons in the grip amazingly comfortable. The only reason I actually ended up getting a Pro Controller was because I kept accidentally pressing the click down on the left Joy-Con playing Zelda because it's a little bit too sensitive, and that was irritating as hell, as you probably understand. Like in the middle of a fight, and then all of a sudden Link crouches and hides behind a blade of grass.
Yeah,
and the other reason is because I've got a young daughter, and I had to hide my Switch away, and the signal on the Joy-Cons would not connect. Which the Pro Controller, I could shove it outside, and it'll still pick it up. So that was the reason why I went for the Pro Controller. Even though for me it's not really that comfortable because it's a bit more chunky. Yeah,
I was saying when I tried the Joy-Con in the grip, I was surprised at how good it felt actually, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need a Pro Controller. And that was at the London premiere, and then I went to the Manchester event as well, and I played Breath of the Wild with a Pro Controller there, and it was like, do you know what? I like having those big chunky buttons, and it just, the grip feels a little bit flimsy at times because it's just a piece of plastic. So I like the sort of the extra weight that the Pro Controller has. It just feels a little bit more satisfying to use for me.
Yeah,
but I think the grip is serviceable.
Yeah. So right, we'll end it there. That's actually gone on for a bit longer. That was nearly 25 minutes. So that was a good conversation. That was fair.
Well, we covered every pad they've ever done.
Yeah. I might cut that one down into sections. In all fairness.
Yeah.
But so we'll go on to the last topic. I'm sure you're ready for bed now. I definitely am.
Yeah.
So this was your topic, which is why do we love Zelda so much? So we both found out that we both like Zelda a lot. We found out some weird things about me with swords under the bed. And, so like you say, you've only just completed Zelda Breath of the Wild. I take it that's your first playthrough finished. May I ask, why has it took you so long?
Just finding the time to play, and it's funny. People say, "Oh, the great thing about the Switch is you can take it with you, and you can get 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and things like that." It's like, I don't want to play Breath of the Wild for 10 minutes. When I play it, I want to sit down for an afternoon, or at the very least, have a good hour or two. to sit there and play through it and put some time into it. So that's part of the thing. The other reason is I wanted to find all 120 shrines before I went to Ganon. So I've put, I think about 140, 145 hours or something before I even went to Hyrule Castle. I was amazed when I got the first DLC pack and had a look at the Hero's Path thing on the map. I was like, how have I put 140 hours in and there's all these places I've not been on the map? This is insane. So yeah, it's just because it was a game that I couldn't just sit and play for 10 minutes. So that's why it's taken me till now to finish it. Is that I wanted to when I played it, make sure I had good chunks of time. I did actually book 10 days off work from the launch to play it, and but it still took me till now anyway.
Well, the thing is with me is I'm petrified of spoilers, so I stayed up literally every single night as late as I could to play it because let's face it, anyway, sleep's for the weak. But yeah,
well, this is what was so difficult because that's because I write for ZeldaUniverse.net as well. So like covering stories and like the things fans have discovered and stuff for them, whilst trying to avoid spoilers. It's like, no, I've not played that yet. Somebody else can handle that story. So it was a similar sort of thing where, like, now that I've finished it, I'm going back and watching all these tricks people have found and things like this, and theories about where it is in the timeline and this, that, and the other. They've been out for like weeks and months now. I was like, yeah, now I've finished it, I can go and like watch all this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of details that people find and stuff is just immense. But I really enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I think it was.
I love it. It was fantastic.
It was exactly what we needed at exactly the right time for me.
Yeah, the my sort of only criticism of Breath of the Wild is the story didn't grip me as much as Skyward Sword did, Majora's Ocarina, just previous Zelda games. And I think part of that is down to just purely to the nature of the game. It is a game that you should spend 100 hours finishing. I think if you sort of plowed through it and you're hitting the story beats quite often, it might sort of draw you in a little bit more. But because I spent so much time just wandering around, those sort of memories and things that sort of form the story, it was so spread out that it didn't sort of like grip me in the same way. But I did, before I went into the final room to fight Ganon, I went through and watched all the memories back, like in order. And that did give you a good sense of, actually, no, there is like a really good story here. But just the nature of the game, it didn't sort of pull you in the same way. But that's a minor gripe. The game's fantastic.
Yeah, I made myself a mission to go and find all the memories in one go, so it might have been a bit of a different thing for me. I also didn't do all 120 shrines before I fought Ganon because I like hard games, which you'll hear about later on in this conversation. But I didn't want to fight Ganon overpowered because I always find that Zelda games, they get far too easy from about the midpoint onwards.
Yeah, that was the thing. I didn't struggle with Ganon at all. I had the Master Sword. I had the Twilight Princess armor that I had scanned from the amiibo, fully maxed out, and I had the Hylian shield, and I had plenty of meals cooked as well. So it was a fairly straightforward battle, especially the second half. When you're out on Hyrule Field, that was a walk in the park, which was a little bit of a shame. But I'm going to try. I'm not going to do this on Master Mode, but I'm going to sort of play through again and just go straight from the plateau to Hyrule Castle and see how I fare on that one. So that's maybe a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. So with that, where was your first Zelda game that you played? Was it one of the like the Super NES ones, or was it a bit later?
So I have sort of vague memories of playing a little bit of Link to the Past at a friend's house because I didn't have a SNES growing up. But the first Zelda game I played properly, like start to finish, was Ocarina of Time. And it's still, even after finishing Breath of the Wild, as fantastic as Breath of the Wild is, Ocarina is probably still my favourite. I could write a walkthrough for that game from scratch. I must play through it like once a year at least. I think that's kind of where modern Zelda sort of, obviously like that it was a watershed moment, like Breath of the Wild has been, and that's where the subsequent Zelda games have taken a lot of their cues from. But just the story of it, I've always sort of referred to Zelda as the sort of Lord of the Rings of video games. The fact that it has this world and this lore and all these things around it. I love that game so much. I've bought like every version of it, so I've got it on the 64, the limited edition Wind Waker disc, the Zelda Collector's Edition disc that you could get off the Stars catalogue back in the day. I remember setting my alarm the day that was coming out for like 6 o'clock in the morning to like get that, and it didn't go online until about 3:30 in the afternoon. So I was like waiting all day. Got in from school. I was like trying to get a hold of it, but I managed to get one. And then I've got the one on the 3DS and every Virtual Console version they've released as well. I've bought God knows how many copies of Ocarina, and I play through it every time.
Yeah, I'm the same as you with Ocarina of Time. I've played through every version of it that there is. And I've got to say, my favourite actually is the 3DS version. I really like. I really like having the 2 modes on there as well, you know, and the boss rush and stuff like that. It's just a nice little thing added to it, while they kept the game the same, which is how you want to remember that game. So
and gyro aiming again.
Yeah, gyro aiming again, which is a fantastic added bit to that, wasn't it? Yeah. That was easily forgot as well, but it became natured in it again, as we've already spoken about. So my first experience really was with Link's Awakening. I did have the same as you. I didn't have a Super NES growing up. I did have a little go of.
You're absolutely
Link's
right.
Awakening was my first. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remembered I played a lot of Link's Awakening as well. My little brother had it for his Game Boy, and I'd totally forgotten about that. Yeah, so did I have that before or after Ocarina? I can't remember, to be honest. It was that long ago now. Yeah, I played a lot of Link's Awakening as well.
Yeah, so that was special to me, Link's Awakening. Especially, I owned a classic Game Boy, but I remember the one thing I wanted more than anything as a kid was the Game Boy Color and a copy of that game in color, which was fantastic. Blew me away at the time, but I think every Zelda game really has impressed me continually in terms of the home console version. Some of the handheld ones, I think they've had a few blunders here and there, but you know, the series, I love the way that it intertwines with each other sometimes, and yeah, it's just fantastic. You know, like you say, some of the Lord of the Rings sort of scope of Twilight Princess was another thing that blew me away. Which, if you look back at it now, it doesn't seem like anything, but at the time it was something amazing. I feel like,
Twilight Princess was a game that I plowed through. I just wanted to know like what happened, and I did no side quests at all. And to be honest, there isn't a great deal of side quests in Twilight Princess, I don't think. Like, not that I can remember. Like, there's like finding Princess Agatha's bugs and stuff, and there's a couple of little bits here and there, but it didn't have the same sort of. I think going from Wind Waker, which is, I haven't thought about where it sits in relation to Breath of the Wild yet, but putting Breath of the Wild to one side, after Ocarina, Wind Waker was my favourite Zelda game. And just the sheer amount of side quests and little things you could do away from the main story, and I loved. So Twilight Princess felt a little bit more sort of constrained coming off the back of that. So Twilight Princess, it was what everyone wanted when they showed Wind Waker, wasn't it, initially? And I was one of those people who was like, what the hell are they doing to Zelda with Wind Waker when it came out? And like I say, now it's one of my favorite games because it just works so well.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. When they showed Wind Waker, I was like, no, what have you done? You've totally ruined this game. I'm not a fan anymore. Yeah. That's it. It's gone.
Yeah, that's it. And now I think the art style for Breath of the Wild, and to certainly as Skyward Sword as well, that's Zelda to me now. It's the happy medium between Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, because I think Twilight Princess, one of the things I love about Zelda is all the quirky characters and stuff that you get in it, and some of the characters in Twilight Princess, the sort of quirkier ones, just sort of didn't sit right with the art style. They just seemed a bit out of place and just odd tonally with the game. So I think like Breath of the Wild's a gorgeous game, but that art style that they've got now, I think that is Zelda to me. It's the right balance between the two.
So yeah, the thing that I really love about the series is just how diverse it's been. You've had all sorts of experiences from touch games through to motion control games. You've had the different styles from cartoony to realistic to gritty. It's a constant evolving thing. And just when you think, right, they've got this style down, all of a sudden they hit with Triforce Heroes or something else, that's totally different. And it's good. I mean, like I say, you'll always have ones that weren't as good as the previous game before it, but it's all in the purpose of creating something new, which is what I love about the Zelda franchise so much. Is just how they continue.
And despite that variety, they still all feel like Zelda games as well.
Yeah,
even Zelda 2. Yeah. They've all got that thing's like, yeah, this is a Zelda game. It's almost unquantifiable. It's difficult to put your finger on, but there's just something about a Zelda game when you play it. I don't know, maybe it's part nostalgia, or there's just something about it that makes you go, yeah. And one of the things I've got to mention as well is the music in Zelda games is phenomenal. Have you been to see the Symphony Orchestra at all?
I've been 3 times and got chills every time.
Yeah. It's like I go to a lot of gigs. I'm big into my music and stuff, but I've never grinned at a show so much as I did at the Symphony of the Goddesses. It was just so good, and the way they did it, like game by game, like the Wind Waker and the Ocarina section, was like, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if they're art pieces more than games sometimes. And then, once you strip that apart, you've got a fantastic game straight in the middle of that as well, which is just, all the home console games I think have been fantastic. I don't think there's a single one that I haven't enjoyed.
No, they're all brilliant. And like, I know a lot of people hate on Skyward Sword, but the cinematics and the story in that is possibly the best of the series, and it's my favorite iteration of Zelda in the series as well. In that game, I think Skyward Sword gets a bad rep. I think it's a really good game. I replayed it a year or so ago. I was on like Breath of the Wild hype. It's like, I need this game now, so I'm gonna. So I went through and replayed Skyward Sword, and it's some of the waggle things are a little bit annoying at times, but I think it holds up really well. I think it's better than people remember.
Yeah, I'm with that one. Yeah, the story is. I actually think it's the best story in the Zelda game so far. There's much more emotion to it, and the character diversity was better. There's much better interaction between them all. So I'm with you on that one. One thing which I've already touched about, which I'm not a fan of, is how easy some of the games are. Which I understand that not all these games are made for me. I actually quite like tough games, but I'm so happy with Master Mode on Breath of the Wild, and it kind of reminds me of the original Zelda, which everybody draws comparison to, but more so Zelda 2 with how tough the combat was in that, and you have to decide, should I fight, should I just run, and I love the hero modes that they've always done, and Master Mode on Breath of the Wild has actually catapulted that game from, this is up there with the best 2. No, this is the best game now, and I hope that's something they continue with keeping some sort of Master Mode or hard mode or any sort of modes like that.
Yeah, I think they will. The Trial of the Sword is really tough as well. I'm finding. So I've only done the first. I got through, I think, almost all of the second part before I died. I think I was on like the last bit. It's like, oh, swine. But that's been challenging, which has been good. And I think even Breath of the Wild's weird is that it's not, most games get more difficult as they go on. Whereas Breath of the Wild has gotten easier as it's gone on, I found.
Yeah,
you start off and you're running away from pretty much everyone. And even to a certain extent now, I still don't go near Lionel's, even though I've like maxed out my hearts and things like that. I'll take them on if I have to, but given the choice, I'll run away. But I remember I did the Zora Temple first, and then I did the Gerudo a Divine Beast. So Thunderblight Ganon was the second beast I fought, and that was tough. That was really difficult. Got my rear end handed to me a few times doing that, but like we mentioned earlier, by the time I got to Ganon, I was like powered up, and it was pretty much a walk in the park by then. So yeah, it's a weird way, but I don't know how they'd sort of change it. I know the Bokoblins get tougher, but it just means you just have to press attack a few more times. There's no sort of real challenge to fighting those enemies. The Lynels are tough.
That's the clever thing about the Trial of the Sword, isn't it? Because they strip all that off here, and you have to go in without it, which could have been the way that they combat that for the last sort of section of the game. But I actually haven't even tried the Trial of the Sword yet, because I don't want to try it unless it's on Master Mode, because I'm insane.
Yeah.
And my playthrough of Master Mode, I'm also not taking on any of the Divine Beasts, so I have to fight all the versions of Ganon one after another. Which I think was such an awesome thing that they did. Is like, right, if you don't take them on in their home, you're gonna have to take them on before the last boss. So we're gonna have to wrap this up in a second. But do you want to add anything else to this? To why you love Zelda so much?
It's difficult to sort of pin down. There's just so much about it, from the gameplay to the puzzles. We haven't even touched on puzzles, and that's probably the toughest part of Breath of the Wild. Is some of those logic puzzles in the Divine Beasts are really tough. The dungeons are so good, and I hope that going forward, I know Aonuma said that open world is going to be the standard for Zelda now. But if we can have an open world Zelda game with traditional style dungeons in, then yeah, sign me up.
That's it. We don't need anything else after that. We can all die happy people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. I haven't got anything else to say on it, because otherwise I'm going to ramble for like a good couple of hours. So we'll leave it at that there.
I could talk Zelda for weeks.
Yeah, cool. So if you just want to, like I say, this will be edited out, and I'll end up doing it at the end of the show. But if you do a thing about where people can find you and stuff, just so I've got the details there for when I actually mix it together, because this thing isn't too good. That's why I've got this and this. So
okay, yeah. So if you search PMyth Gaming in YouTube, you can find my YouTube channel on there, and then it's at PMyth Gaming on Twitter. There's links and stuff on there too. There's my personal Twitter account, which is just at PhilMyth, which has some gaming things on, but it's mostly me. Bad puns, music, and politics on there.
The Triforce.
yeah, the Triforce of puns. That's right.
Right, so I'll hit end broadcast now.